Finally glad to share with you guys that I've partnered with What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Turbo M42 E36 build. In the last one, if you would have watched it, my friend Jordan and I got the turbo manifold all mocked up, ready to go. We had the turbo mounted in its final place, ready for the intercooler. We had it tacked, so I went ahead and took that to work, got it all welded up. As you can see, we went ahead and tigged up all the pie cuts. Don't judge the welds, I'm new to TIG welding, but I think for an amateur, I've done pretty well considering there's a fair few gaps to fill up. It's a bit dirty because I touched it with my glove and left burn marks on it, but it will do the job. So in today's video, the goal is to get the intercooler mocked up in place where it's going to live and start knocking out all the piping so we can get this thing plumbed up and ready to hold some boost. But before I go and do that, I've got to go ahead and put the manifold back on so that we can have the turbo in its final place, because once that's in place, I can start mapping out the piping and the routing of where it's going to go. And in order for that to be done, I need the turbo to be exactly where it's going to be. Seeing as you've already watched me take that on a few times, I'll save you having to watch that and use some magic. There we go, so we've got the turbo mounted back up with the manifold, and now we're ready to move on. So next step, you got your manifold bolted, you got your turbo bolted, now you're gonna ask, what size intercooler and piping should I run? So here we have it, 600 by 300 by 76 wide intercooler. This should fit perfectly in the bay. I spoke to a few guys running turbos. This seems to be the size to go. We've gone for the 2.5 inches. We've got silicone joiners, we've got hose clamps. We've got everything we're gonna need to get this thing plumbed. I wanna give a big shout out to Max Ping Ross for jumping on to support the build. This kit is pretty affordable, around the $300-400 mark, so it aligns perfectly with the build and what we're trying to achieve here, keeping it on a budget. Let's go ahead and get it mocked up now. First things first, let's get this front bar ripped off, get the bash bar removed, and then that way we can mock up the intercooler. First source, immediately I can see this is sitting pretty far forward, and honestly I don't like how low it is to the ground. We've got it upside down, that way we can route our intercooler piping into the bay. But one important thing to note when you're building your drift car is you want to keep everything at the front of the car as far in as possible, that way you're out of the crash zone, because worst case you get into a bingle, you don't want to end your track day by something simple like crushing your intercooler and not being able to repair it. I went ahead and removed the AC fan. It was 3 bolts on this side, 3 bolts on the side, pulled it out. I also broke out that little plastic tab. I'm not sure what that's for. I think it's some sort of venting. Not relevant to me, so we got rid of that. And now you can see I've been able to get the intercooler a lot further in now. Before it was sitting pretty much at the front here. Now you can see it's sitting a lot higher up. It's got room behind the nose cone, so that way I'll be able to fit the bash bar back on. I'll probably be making a new one. This one's done very well. It's lasted me a long time, made by my friend Mitch. She's taken a fair few hits, but with the intercooler and the bumper I'll be running, I'll need to modify it anyways to make it fit better, more efficiently. But I'm pretty happy with that. That's sitting pretty much where I wanted it to. Still a bit low, but it is what it is. I could have opted for a smaller intercooler, but I want this thing to be reliable. I want to keep the temps down so IAT is low. So the big intercooler, the more cooler the air is going into the engine, keeps everything happy. For the mounting, what I'm probably going to do, I'm not sure if you can see in there, there's already a steel bracket here. I'll probably get some flat bar, make tabs from there to there. That'll pick up the top 2 mounts. And then on the underside, I'll make legs that come down, pretty much an L bracket to pick up the bottom. Now you can buy bolt-on mounts to suit the E36 for an intercooler kit. There's a few companies that make them. I believe Two Step Garage and Burnouts Unlimited make a bracket. But like I said, I'm trying to make the recipe for you boys who want to boost your M40 series on a budget. So that's why I'll be making my own rather than buying one. If you want the easy option and get one to bolt straight on, then you can always go down that route. I got a bit carried away and mocked up some of the intercooler piping with the joiners. They're obviously only taped on and nothing's cut because I just, you gotta get that mid-build motivation, get a bit G'd up, I gotta say, seeing it with an intercooler is so sick. I'm not sure if I mentioned, but this is actually the first turbo build I've done. All my cars are slow, I've always wanted to boost one, so I'm pretty excited to dive into this. Learn some new things, try some new things, and teach some new things. So yeah, next up is to make those brackets. You can't really tell, but it's getting late now, it's getting dark. I don't think we're gonna have enough time to do that, so I'll have to pick this up on another day.
Day 2.
All right, it's another day, another task, and today we're gonna try to get the intercooler finally bolted in its final home so I can start getting some piping cut. So I'm gonna take some measurements, cut some steel, get this thing tacked up so I can get it all in its final home. So first things first, got a tape measure, take some measurements, make some markers, we'll get everything cut up. It's gonna be a bit tricky with one hand, but we'll see how we go. So just to clarify, what we're trying to do is make a bracket from here, and we're going to weld it straight across to the AC condenser bracket here. So we're looking at about roughly 100 mil. So that way, obviously, your bolts in the middle. Past the hole, I think should be fine. 100 mil each side. Not sure if you can see, but the bracket actually ends here. So what we're going to have to do is make a drop down L bracket. So what we're trying to do is measure from the bottom of that bracket to the bottom of the intercooler. We'll use that piece of flat bar as a guide of where that bracket's going to be. Roughly about 185, 190 mil. We'll cut it 190 because it's always easier to cut more material off and to add more on. So we'll go 190 for those down. We can now measure this one, and we'll look at about 100 mil for this one. Now keep in mind that because of this hard line for the AC, we could go further back, but we are limited. So if you are removing your AC or you don't have AC already, you can probably get away with removing that and putting it into a lot further back, which will change the way you mount it, obviously. So keep in mind, if you're going to go off what I'm telling you, it's going to sit out a little bit further than it normally would, but I think it'll be fine. So what I got here is some 3mm flat bar and some 3.5mm SHS I had laying around. I realized quickly that's probably not going to be enough flat bar. It was just an offcut, but that's fine because I'm all about the DIY guy trying to do with what he's got, so we're just going to make this work. Alright, so I went ahead and changed my mind when I was about to go make the measurements because I decided instead of having two tabs just coming up the top and the bottom piece having to come down and up, I thought I might just make one big sort of C-section like this. So I found another offcut I had of SHS. I went ahead and I just cut it into strips. Obviously in an ideal situation, you would go and buy more flat bar, but we're trying to get this done with what we have. I'm really trying to emphasize on that. So people that might not have the money to go and buy materials can just make do with scrap they've got in the yard. This will do for what it is, honestly. I do have to mention though, if you're gonna be cutting out box tube of any kind, you have to be careful because there will be a sort of spring to it once you cut through because it is under tension. It can catch a disc, so if that's something you're gonna do, you've gotta be cautious while you're cutting this. All right, so off camera, I went ahead and just mocked up this little C bracket I was talking about, more so proof of concept. That way I didn't waste my time explaining how to do it and it might not have worked. So we'll chuck that on and you guys will be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. So you can see just very loosely here, we've got the bracket sitting there, so it comes over the top. I'll drill a hole here. I'll probably slot it so that we do have a little bit of adjustment. Goes down here, and I'll be able to run a weld on multiple spots in this brace, which is kind of why I decided to go down this route. This angle you can kind of see a bit better, so we'll be able to run a few tacks along that bracing. It comes underneath and picks up the intercooler there. Now that we test fitted this so we know it works, I'll run you guys through the process of how I made it so we can get the other one done. So from top to bottom, we're about 340 mil, and the tabs that pick up the bolt holes are about 110 long. Bear in mind, this is kind of loose. I think it might be probably 5 mil too big, but that's fine because as I tighten this, it will squish. Also, full disclosure, this is a guideline. This is to suit the intercooler I have, with the setup I have, like in terms of placement with the AC lines in a way. But hopefully this gives you guys a ballpark so you can go ahead and make your own. Now all we're gonna do is transfer those measurements to there, make another one. Alrighty, as you can see, we've got this one all welded up. Not scared to show my welds. We are MIG welding outside on a windy day, so bear in mind the argon is blowing around a bit, but for what it is, a few tacks will grind it back, paint it black. And you know what they say, grinder and paint makes me the welder I ain't. There we go. Grind the edges nice and flat. By the time I get it tacked up on the car and welded, you won't even be able to tell I've made it out of scrap. So to clarify, I'm purely going down the route of using offcuts because I really want to keep this relatable to the backyard warriors who do things on a small budget. They just want to get things done. My OCD is killing me. I really want to go get my flat bar, but for the purpose of the exercise, I just want to show that you don't have to go and buy all the fancy materials or all the fancy tools. I got this grinder for like probably less than $100. Offcuts, if you've got laying around the garage, you can recycle something you've already got. And for the purpose that we're using for, I don't think it's a big deal. Yeah, it might be a little bit wonky, it's not perfect, but grind the surface rust off, paint it, and you'll be right. So now that we've got our brackets made, I'll go ahead and mark our holes for the bolts, drill these, and that way we can offer it up to intercooler and make sure it all fits properly. So we got our hole, we're roughly about 30 million from the edge. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drill the hole quite a bit bigger than what it needs to be, and the reason why I'm gonna do that is because I want a bit of adjustability. That way, if the brackets aren't straight for whatever reason, I have the ability to get the thing straight. But not only that, if I do get into a bingle and something gets smushed around, I know that I have the ability to just loosen the bolts, adjust the intercooler to get it back to where it needs to be. I think it's important as a drift car to future-proof your ideas when you make things so that serviceability is easier at the track, because last thing you want is if you do get a bit of a nudge and it's kinked, you've got to pull the whole thing out, try and slot your holes out. Whereas if you anticipate that to happen, you give yourself a bit of adjustability in the future and it makes things a lot easier. You can just loosen it, adjust it, tighten it again. So we've got our holes drilled, so I'll go and offer this up to the intercooler, make sure our holes are in fact going to line up. There you can see we've got the bracket, I've just chucked a bolt in. It's sitting against the bracket as it should. You can see where it sits along the bracket here, comes underneath and lines up here. Obviously that's loose, I might end up trimming that a bit, we'll see how it goes, but I'll take this off and let's get it fitted properly. Now that we've got our brackets bolted to the intercooler, we'll offer it back up, find its home, tack it in place. I'll probably remove the intercooler again, take the entire bracket off so I can weld it properly, give it a coat of paint, bolt it back on, and we should be good to do the piping. We've got the intercooler in its home. You can see where it sits along there, top to bottom, and we'll weld it along here. So what I'll do is I'll go and square this up. I'll make some marks with a Sharpie. I might either tack it on or I'll take everything off and I'll tack it on the table. My welder doesn't reach that far, but I think we've got enough so that I can take the intercooler off, take the bracket off, put it on the bench, weld it, and we should be sweet. All right, so we've got our bracket all tacked together now. Unfortunately, I did realize that this bracket is slightly bent because of a previous crash that I had, so it was a tiny bit of a pain to get off. I might have to slot these holes to make it a bit easier, but nonetheless, I'm gonna get this cleaned up. I'm gonna go ahead and weld everything, give it a coat of paint, and that way it should be ready to go on for its final fit. So I just finished up welding this and I just wanted to show you when the conditions are right and the wind's not blowing, your boy's not bad. What I did was I ran a stitch there, top and bottom, ran a little tack there, flip her over. There wasn't enough surface area between here because obviously this is a little bit of a low spot, so I built it up, tack there, 4 tacks there, 4 tacks there. That's going to be plenty to hold it on. I'm sort of glad I went with this idea that way, rather than having a little bit of a tab and then just a little bit of a spot where its only purchase is on that lip. At least it gives it a bit more strength. Probably other ways you could have done this, probably could have mocked this up on the intercooler outside of the car, but at the end of the day it worked and easy enough that you guys can do it yourself. So just went ahead and tracked a few coats of black etch primer on it so that it looks all nice in one colour and it's not going to rust. Because as you've seen, it was pretty rusty before. Grinded it all out, I've cleaned it up, and now it looks pretty good. Pretty cool to see that from what was a few bits of offcut sitting in the back of the garage is now a one-hole piece bracket that's going to bolt onto the car and allow the intercooler to fit perfectly at home. For those wondering what etch primer I use a Wattle Spray Mate. It is a 1K industrial etch primer. It sticks to anything, it dries really quickly, and it protects it from corrosion. Good thing about that is now it's pretty much dry. As you see, I just sprayed it 2 minutes ago. I can go fit this back up to the car. We can bolt the intercooler for the final time. Now is the exciting part. We've got the bracket all mounted up. Now to finally fit the intercooler in its home for the last time. So final verdict, she's all bolted in, one piece from top to bottom, left to right. It picks up the OEM Rio bolts. We did have to slot them a bit because, as I said, my car has been in a bingle, it's a bit crooked, but it is all good, hunky-dory. Now it's finally ready to start laying up the intercooler piping. There you have it, the intercooler is all finally bolted in place in its final home. It's not gonna go anywhere, that's pretty solid. I'm honestly pretty chuffed with how this come out from a few bits of scrap laying in the garage. Now we've got a intercooler mounted to this car. The more pieces I get done in this car, the more excited I get for the process and just how we're getting closer to finally boosting this bad boy. This thing working? All right, me from the future with some exciting news. You've heard me tease for a while now, something exciting coming. Finally glad to share with you guys that I've partnered with TI Performance. Super stoked to be working with such a great company that not only supply the best parts, but the best customer service. When I reached out to Jason about the BMW build, he was super understanding and super helpful. They not only support the general enthusiast, but also anything automotive. They cover everything from air systems, fuel systems, intakes, all the sensors you can need. They are a Raceworks distributor as well, a massive supporter of the Ford community, and a massive array of parts covering that platform. They've also stepped into the BMW platform as well. They've also got any adapters, hoses, fittings, fuel lines, AN, anything performance related, they've got it. Jason and team work hard to provide customers with great advice, great pricing, and the fastest shipping, and the best snacks. They also stock major brands like Haltech, Raceworks, Crocams, Bosch, and everything in between. Basically anything you need to make your car perform its best, go fast, they've got you covered. I want to give a massive thank you to Jason for being super patient, understanding, willing to support someone like me. Now let's take a look at the goodies we've bought. Starting off with the most obvious and the best, TI Performance goodie snacks. These are the best for working on the car, keeping you energized on those long garage nights. Got a bunch of stickers, air fresheners. We've already got one in the car. Stubby holder for the garage beveraginos. Bottle opener for said beveraginos. Notepad to write all the parts that I'm gonna need. We've got an adapter for radiator hose for our coolant temp sensor. Haltech boost control solenoid. No boost CCL, we want reliable control over our boost. We've got our E35 rated fuel hose here. The car will be going E85. 3-bar map sensor, our Raceworks fluid pressure and temp sensor, our 3-pin plug for the map sensor, an air temp sensor so we can monitor our IATs, and fluid temp sensor for the coolant. And lastly, this sweet as hat. Once again, I want to give a big thank you to Jason for looking after me with these parts. No, they weren't free. Yes, I did pay for them because I want to support a good business, as should you. Now, obviously, at this point in time, we've just fitted the intercooler and now we're getting onto the piping. So these parts won't be going in the car just yet, but I couldn't wait any longer to share the good news with you guys. Here's a little sneak peek of the next episode because obviously that side of the piping's already done. This was filmed afterwards, obviously. So that'll be releasing after this video. Not sure yet if it's going to be 1 or 2-part video. I did dive pretty far into the fabrication side of it. I might split that in 2 or 1 depending on how long that ends up being, because I want to try and keep it as informative as possible for you guys giving it a crack. As always, I appreciate everyone's patience on the videos. Things have been hectic here with putting this car on hold to get the HQ done, which we finally got done and registered for Bright. I've been working flat out, but I'm finding some time to get stuck into this thing. Hopefully there's not too much longer on the fabrication side and we can get stuck into finalizing the turbo setup, which I'm so excited for. We've also got some goodies from the 3D printing side of things to go on this car, change up the aesthetic and the functionality. That's pretty much it for this one. Intercooler's on. We see the fabrication of the intercooler piping in the next videos to come. I appreciate the patience while I'm finding my feet in this thing. And if you like the vibe, make sure to like, share, subscribe. It goes a long way making these videos. I'll see you in the next one. Fuck, what was I gonna say? Seeing as you've already taken... Seeing as you...